Hi guys, a man called David Bannerman appeared on Mike Graham, the Concrete Farmers show, to talk undiluted drivel. And of course he went unchallenged. Why? Well, for two reasons. One, I don't think Mike Graham actually understands the EU, the European Court of Human Rights, the difference between an asylum seeker and an economic migrant, but probably more likely because he agrees politically with the guest. So he can't call out absolute rubbish statements, but somebody has to.
Not looking good at all for the Conservatives.
Well, it's not. And I mean, he keeps making noises about, stopping the small boats from coming, bringing down inflation, bringing down the NHS waiting list times and all of that. This weekend, he was talking about doing away with our affiliation to the European Court of Human Rights. But nobody really believes a word he says, do they?
Well, that's up to the public. I mean, it's reflected in the polling, isn't it? I don't know, Mike. I mean, I think the European Court of Human Rights issue is very important, and he's right to look at that. Whether we should leave or not, I mean, the Bill of Rights that Dominic Raab was bringing forward actually is a sort of middle step, which is worth having. But I think there is a long-term question about whether we should just leave the European Court of Human Rights anyway. Lawyers actually wrote the convention in the first place to give the rest of Europe the freedoms we already enjoyed. Well, and and it's like, well, hang on, what are these foreign judges, including a Russian judge in the European Court?
No. There is no Russian judge in the European Court of Human Rights. Now, I think he's confusing the European Court of Human Rights with the Council of Europe. But Russia is no longer a member of the European Court of Human Rights or the Council of Europe. They left. They were kicked out in 2022. We're talking about something that's happening now. And isn't it convenient that these people on the right will ignore the fact that Britain has a place in the European Court of Human Rights? There's a British judge in the European Court of Human Rights. They always talk about foreign courts and foreign judges. There isn't a Russian one. It's gone. But there's a British one. And they, of course, conveniently leave that fact out. And, of course, the so-called journalist here should have called him out on this and said, wait a minute, there isn't a Russian judge. Russia isn't signed up to the European Court of Human Rights. But we have a judge there. What's your opinion on that? No, of course not.
What do they really have a role telling us what to do about our human rights anymore and, giving votes to prisoners, for example?
Okay, so this whole thing about will the UK leave the European Court of Human Rights? Of course, this is some red meat to the racists and bigots. We're going to leave the European Court of Human Rights in order to take back control because of Brexit. Remember Brexit? Now, of course, the European Court of Human Rights has nothing to do with Brexit. But it is important to talk about it because of the threat it has to the Good Friday Agreement. Now, when the European Convention on Human Rights was being implemented in UK law, it was, as part of the Good Friday Agreement, the UK agreed the Human Rights Act. So this put into UK law the requirements of the Good Friday Agreement. Now, if the UK were to leave the European Court of Human Rights, it would impact the Human Rights Act, but it would also impact the Good Friday Agreement. The UK signed up to the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. There were referendums on both sides of the Irish border, in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland, to put into law the Good Friday Agreement. If the UK were to remove themselves from the European Court of Human Rights, it would impact the Human Rights Act, of course, and it would impact the Good Friday Agreement. They've been saying this, as you can see from this article, since 2015. So I don't think they're going to do it, but this is just red meat to the racists and bigots. Look, racists and bigots, we're on your side. We're going to exit the European Court of Human Rights to keep people from coming into the country that you don't like. Now, is there a possibility that the UK would leave it? Yes, there's always a possibility, but I think it's extremely remote. Because it would, if it impacts the Good Friday Agreement, there will be sanctions from the United States. there will be sanctions from the European Union. And I don't think Rishi Sunak wants to go down that road. But in order to keep the worst in society happy, you have to pretend that you're going to remove the UK from this court. And you'll use language like foreign judges and not talk about the UK judge. You'll throw in something about Russia as well. Why not do that? You know, the listeners are not going to actually do some research and find out for themselves. And the journalist, quote unquote journalist here, is not going to push back. Why do I have to do this? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.